some interesting updates this week. Speaking of presenting at a conference, Rick Patricelli was invited and was both a presenter as well as a panelist at the Rocky Mountain West Pavement Preservation Partnership. That's a short name, but no, the district is really recognized for its good work, the efforts that are being made in terms of preserving the asphalt here. And Rick is a great leader, represents us very well there, and we're grateful for him and for the opportunity to engage with other professionals in that area, and share the great knowledge that we have. You'll note on your agenda is the approval of the next phase of our review, our pavement assessment review and update, incorporating a lot of the things that we've been presenting and sharing with you into our software, so we can do better at predicting, that the deterioration of the roadways further, and making sure that we understand how to make the right treatment at the right time, in the right place. Yesterday, we had the pleasure of our employee appreciation breakfast. Lots of bacon was cooked, lots of pancakes were made. The team was very appreciative, but this team who helped put it on, led by Stacy, and this being her 13th year of running one of these things, it was a very efficient and well done. The team seemed very appreciative. Thank you to Commissioner Goldthorpe and Commissioner McKinney for being there. You can see Commissioner McKinney there handing out hash browns. The team really did enjoy that. We also kicked off with that our annual employee satisfaction survey. We haven't done one of those for a while, and so we thought it was time to ask the team how they're feeling in general and get kind of a broad sense, so that we can make sure that we test that off, make sure that we are responding to those things as well. It is officially October, and Ridetober has kicked off. This is the Commuter Ride Commute Challenge. This is similar to the May in Motion commute challenges that gets put on a little bit smaller scale, but in general, the goal is to encourage people to use alternative modes for their commute, and so invite you and encourage you to share this message and encourage people to participate. Week 2 of public involvement for the impact fee ordinance and CIP is in the books. We had continued media coverage, which is really great in getting the word out for people, and that's helped further get involvement, and I'll show you those stats here in a second. But Megan and Edinson and Rachel have worked really hard with the media to make sure that the message is getting out there and people understand what it is that's being considered. So with that, we saw pretty much a doubling of our survey responses and participation there. A lot of engagement from the public and looking at the information that's being presented, making sure that continues. Justin also continued his tour of visits with our elected partners. He visited both with Theta County as well as Star last night. And so always the goal is to get some kind of formal feedback from them, and but it was good conversation, and I'm sure Justin can provide you any feedback on that as well if you're interested. Today was walk and roll to school day. Our team was out in force, out and around a number of different schools, encouraging people to recognize the school zones, as well as to work with the students and be a participant there, encouraging safe practices on both sides. So always love how the team engages with the community, and it was fun to see the activities this morning. This evening, our commuter ride team will also be out in force with at a few different locations. Boise Bicycle Project, the Cycle Learning Shop at BSU, a few places I think along the Greenbelt as well, encouraging and providing education on riding in the darker hours, making sure that people understand what's good practice there to be safe, and providing some of the resources that we have in order to help people with those, such as our bike lights and other things, so that they can ride safely. So another great opportunity to engage with the community, and just wanted to make you aware that the team will be out there. So we shared with you a little bit about this a while back. This is a coordinated effort between our broom crew, our environmental team, and our communications team, trying to make our sweeping efforts more effective. As one of the key areas where we see challenges in the fall is in the north end, where we have a lot of trees, but you also have a lot of on-street parking. And so what this effort is trying to do is set certain days when we will be sweeping certain streets, so north-south and east-west streets, so that people can place their vehicles out of the way of that, so that our sweepers can be more effective. This is important from our environmental compliance perspective, ensuring that what gets to the river is that our roads are as clean as possible, so that the right things get to the river and the wrong things don't. So we're kind of in our second phase of this effort. We're seeing a growing level of compliance. It's not perfect yet. It will take more time as this program becomes more consistent. But the team is definitely working hard to get the word out, to share with people. And we've had a number of people reach out and subscribe to those updates, so that they know and get notifications on their phone that the vehicles are going to be there, so that they can place their vehicles in the right spot. So a great coordinated effort here by the team. Grateful to and look forward to seeing those results. It really does have an impact, and can impact how, what are the requirements for us as we move forward. If we can get that working really well, it can also impact, what's required of ACHD. Commissioners, we got our final report on impact fees for the year, and I thought there was a few things in there that were interesting that I would share with you. You can see the overall numbers, so about a $10 million increase this year. And I will tell you, when you look at the percentage breakdown between residential and commercial between the 2 years, that's one thing. The actual dollars for residential were almost flat. They were almost the exact same between years. That $10 million increase came completely on the commercial side. And a lot of that we know came from some major payments from Micron, as well as from St. Luke's downtown. But I thought that was an interesting statistic to look at, just as we are looking at our impact fees. The other thing that I think was really interesting is looking at single-family permits. For the first time, I think in my entire career, Meridian did not have the most single-family permits. They fell to number 2, behind CUNA, which had a significant increase, about a 42% increase there in the number of permits. I had a good conversation with Mayor Simison this week, asking him kind of his thoughts on this and what they're seeing. And with the market, his general feeling is with the market where it is, with the insurance rates, with the type of building that's happening in the residential units that are happening in Meridian versus what's happening in CUNA, you're seeing kind of the affordability question kind of starting to push on some of those things. Now, with a lot of the growth that's happening, with some of the sewer work that's happening, this may be a 1-year blip here, and Meridian will continue to grow as we've seen in the past. Some years Meridian's been the combine of all of the other jurisdictions. So, but just thought this was an interesting tell as we look at growth in the area and what's happening, to see kind of where that's occurring. So just a few other items coming up. Justin will continue his outreach next week in a couple weeks on the 21st. He'll be visiting with both Boise and CUNA on the same day. We also have the Boise Neighborhood Interactive that's coming up at the Idaho State Museum, and our team will be participating there. With Halloween coming up, we're active and engaged in those, and coordinating with the community to be out there and be present and continue that effort of building good, positive interactions with the community. Just wanted to note, we do have another TOC tour coming up on the 6th of November. Mayor McLean will be participating in that with the Boise City staff, who have asked to come out and visit our site there to get to see what's out there. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. And with that, Commission, I'll stand for any questions.
All right, thanks, Director. Any questions, Commissioner Nielsen?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I've had some thoughts, and so the question is for Meridian, the CUNAs, we've had a lot of work on fiscal impact analysis through Compass over the years. How does the highway district, do we use those tools, or do we get information for the cities that do? I know Eagle's probably been the most active in analyzing new development on what the fiscal cost is to the agencies who provide services. So can you just talk about ACHD's involvement in fiscal impact analysis?
Yeah, Madam President,
Yeah.
Commissioner Nielsen, I don't know that I would say that I'm the most up to
Okay,
speed on how
yeah.
we are using that. I think our CIP is probably our greatest tool that we have to indicate to individuals of what is the cost of a project and how do we manage that. Obviously, the long-term maintenance is a question that we always want to take into consideration of what is the impact and the long-term cost of new infrastructure that is built. We do maintain and man an average of cost per lane mile that we take into consideration. We also always take into consideration the fact that without the approval by the city, that growth actually doesn't happen. And so we feel like we have a place to inform the conversation, but not necessarily, we don't have the role of saying yes or no for a development because of its fiscal impact.
Yeah, I was just looking at maybe more holistically on those development patterns, and I take Mayor Simonson's letter to heart, what Meridian's struggling with and the cost of that related to perhaps the development pattern, and not that it's a one size fits all, but that I don't know, like agricultural crops, diversity has its benefits, and in providing transportation service, that's where that might be a good, maybe Compass to step into that role a little more actively. So anyway, thank you.
Great place for that.
Any other questions? All right, thanks for the report, and
you.
we will be at ease until noon. All right, good afternoon, everybody. It's now 12 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Thanks to everyone joining us in person and online, and please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the first item is to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion?
Yes, so moved.
Second. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a commissioner or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. All consent agenda items are commission action items unless noted. I don't believe we have any requests to move any items, so is there a motion?
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the regular agenda. We have one item, the construction bid award for Linder Road, SH 44 to Floating Feather Road, project number 520033. This is a request for approval, and welcome EJ.
Good afternoon, Madam President, Commissioners. For the record, my name is EJ. I am a project manager in the capital projects for ACHD. I am here today for the bid award approval of Linder Highway 44 to Floating Feather, as well as to go over some general information regarding the project. So Linder Road, State Highway 44 to Floating Feather Road. This will be widening to 5 lanes, 2 lanes going each direction and a center turn lane. We also have a multi-lane roundabout going in at Floating Feather and Linder. Construction's geared to start mid-November, and we are looking at a completion date late fall of next year, 2026. So as we can see with the vicinity map, towards the north end of Linder, that is where the roundabout will land. I also clouded both schools, North Star and Galileo, as well as the fire department just north of those two for reference. So we're aware that this project requires a lot of coordination with the public, specifically for those 2 schools, both drop off and pick up mornings and afternoons. Up to date, we've had one-on-ones with the HOAs, the residents, the Lutheran, Hope Lutheran School, Hope Lutheran Church and schools. We've conducted traffic observations at both schools during those peak hours and met with the principals. What's coming up is on the 29th, we're going to meet with the contractor, schools, bus companies, emergency responders to go over not only the phasing plan and traffic control plan, but also to get their input. We also have an open house to present the project to the public on November 6th. And also, what I feel most importantly is throughout this project, we're going to have public outreach and meet with the public, specifically when there's any changes in phases. So there's nothing around the corner that would surprise anybody. And for the reason why we're here, so the low-cost responsive bid was submitted by Granite Excavation, coming in at $10,151,988. Staff recommends awarding the contract to Granite Excavation, and I stand for any questions.
Thanks, EJ. Are there any questions?
I have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Has to do with the historical bidding that we've had done, at least during the time that I've been here. this, even adjusted for inflation, is an outstanding bid, in my opinion, not just for the mile, but for the mile plus the roundabout. I am very grateful that bids are starting to come in, perhaps on a more reasonable level.
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, I totally agree. In fact, we had 9 bids come in, and a lot of them were around this number, at least below 11 million. So we were 22% below the fiscal year 26-27 budget as well.
Yeah, thanks, EJ. Below the engineer's estimate, is that what you're meaning?
Oh, no, so we're 20.8% below the, sorry, Madam President. We're 20.8% below the engineer's estimate. We're 30.8 below the fiscal year, but that also includes revenue for landscaping through the city of Eagle and a cost share agreement. So excluding the revenue, 22%.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for the little bit of background and context information on this. This obviously is going to be a complex project, but one the city of Eagle has been wanting for a long time, and want to echo the comments that glad to see that this is coming in under a reasonable rate. So,
Madam President?
Commissioner Pickering.
Yeah, just a quick question. EJ, with, obviously you had some conversations with the school district and the schools over there, and given the nature and the scale of this project, it's going to be big, and the length of time that it's going to be under construction. I'm not looking for like an exhaustive, work zone plan, but could you just give us a little bit of some insight on like how the team and Granite Excavation would be looking at, making sure folks are going in safely and the impacts from construction are minimized as much as possible?
Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, that's a great question. I will say until we have Granite on board, it's very difficult to basically look at their schedule, go over what our game plan is as far as our traffic control that we show for and the phasing. But what I feel is once this project starts, our goal is to stay in complete contact and connection with the schools and the public. So if there does need to be a change on the fly, that we can make that happen. Yeah, so until we have the contractor on board, it's difficult to say the exact phasing.
Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, the other thing that we've been applying regularly in with these major projects is proactively going in ahead of time and establishing traffic calming on the adjacent neighborhood streets where we know there will be some detouring. So that is occurring on both sides of the road here. There's good connections through here also to Eagle or to Park where Eagle High School is. So we're actively going into the neighborhood and making sure that those things are taken into account ahead of time.
Great. Thank you.
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney.
sorry, I
That's
didn't
okay.
mean to
Go ahead.
interrupt.
Nope.
And I had some questions, though, that perhaps the director might be the best one to answer this. I don't know. But just looking at the cost and the budget issues, I seem to recall that we had some fairly significant right-of-way costs on this. So if we put it all together, the construction here now, 10.1 million approximately. And what were our right-of-way? What are we looking at all together when we total that up? Does anyone have I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot. I don't know if anyone has that number handy.
After what we budgeted for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and that may be something that because we'll be talking about the 5-year plan, because these sorts of costs are also relevant to our 5-year plan discussion. So if we have that number, then I'm also, the one question, and this also kind of, again, it moves in the direction of our 5-year plan, but this segment of Linder Road, it's, of course, the segment directly to the south on the other side of State Highway 44 is, as far as traffic is concerned, is highly congested and is a real bottleneck. But of course, that's another project and so on. And I guess the question in my mind is, when this project was moved forward, and I have no desire to hold it back, as this needs to be done. Comparatively, though, the level of service on these two different segments of Linder Road, I'd like to see the comparison to see where those two stack up. Because sometimes in looking at our 5-year plan, my hope is that we prioritize, relieving congestion as much as possible. And sometimes we may, I think, miss on that. And we get some projects ahead of time when the congestion issue is a greater concern in other places. So this is one of those places where I have that, I'd like to see that comparison. I think it would be helpful to know the relative traffic conditions for these two adjacent segments of Linder Road. I think that would be a helpful comparison as we consider our 5-year plan. So I know that goes a little bit off of this, but anyway, this is a good project and I'm glad to see it go.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President, Commissioner McKinney. Yeah, I want to make sure we refocus on the question at hand, which is to award the bid or not. But definitely this project, just from historical information, has been a high priority, if not the top priority, both for the city of Eagle as well as the West Ada School District has been a high priority for at one time, the connections to the school and making sure that kids could walk to these schools. So I do recognize that there is some from a level of service and congestion perspective, a 2-lane road between two major highways does carry definitely more traffic. I think that's that can't be argued, but definitely this has been a priority for our partners, and that's where this project kind of moved ahead and got prioritized in the way that it did. The other thing I think we can recognize is the other project is also from a expense perspective is definitely, you might get a little bit different perspective when you start looking cost benefit in that, but we can provide some of that information. I think I heard over my shoulder 15 million was the total cost of this project. Of 17 with right of way and design.
Okay,
Was the total
so-
cost of the project.
Okay, so right away and design altogether 17, so about another 6 or more million on top of the 10 million construction cost.
17 is all
Madam
inclusive.
President, Commissioner McKinney, you're yes. The total cost is that larger number over the 10 was the right of way. Yep.
And then we have a construction open house on this project on November 6th at Galileo. All right. Great. Well, if there's no other discussion, is there a motion?
Yes.
Commissioner
Madam
Coulter.
President, I would move that we award the bid, the construction bid from Linder Highway 44 north to Floating Feather, project number 520033.
There's a
Second.
motion. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is discussion items, public communications. Do we have anybody in person or online who wish to address the commission?
There's one other important thing.
Oh.
EP,
EJ,
EJ, sorry. Ricardo will explain.
all right, seeing no public comments, the meeting is adjourned. Next up is our work session, 2026-2030 5-year plan agency and public comment review presentation by staff. Welcome, Christy.
Good afternoon, Madam President and Commissioners. For the record, Christy Inselman, Planning Supervisor in our Long Range Planning Division. Today I'm coming before you on our 2030 5-year plan. I still have to get myself used to saying 5-year plan, which I love that so much better. Today I'll be going over, we released the internal draft back in August, initial draft back in August, and solicited responses from our partner agencies as well as the public. So I'm here today to go over what we heard from them and any recommended changes that staff would have on the plan itself. So start with everybody's favorite slide during the 5-year plan. It's just over the course of a year it takes to update the plan. We're at the finish line. So we're here at the end. We're here for October 8th, reviewing those items, and then we'll be back in front of you in 2 weeks on October 22nd for the adoption of the plan. Want to thank all of the staff that helps put this together every year. It's a big lift, but we love it so much. So this is just a high level. I'll get into more details with each of these items on the following slides. But for the initial draft, we received a total of 427 responses. That was an increase from last year. Received comments back from 7 of our partner agencies. And then from the public, we received 420, most of which came through the online map. We did change that up just slightly this year. So we did see an increase in the number of ACHC Connect emails that we received. We had 71 of those, 1 formal letter, and a lovely phone call with a gentleman who had some questions. Now, to dig in a little bit more into the public comment, we're showing these a little bit differently this year as well. So we just wanted to highlight kind of the technically top 7, because a lot had the same number of comments. So these are by project. So these are the projects that received the most amount of comments on the 5-year plan. So there were a total of 147 different projects that we received comments on. And the full list of what we heard from the public was included in the packet as well. So the top comment receiver was Collister State to Hill, received 31. And then our Poplar Cole to Curtis, it's a maintenance program. We're going to put sidewalk in as well, received 17. Palmer, Large Patch, Cloverdale. Of all of the projects here up on the screen, the only one that's not currently in the plan is the Cloverdale Victory to Overland. And then after those top 7 that received, you'll see a group that received about 6 comments. Then it kind of drops off after that, where it drops to like 5, 4, and then a whole bunch of ones. And from our partner agencies, we received, as I said, 7 different partner agencies provided feedback on the initial draft. Up in the left-hand corner, those agencies, which were Ada County, City of Eagle, BSU, and VRT, just submitted emails or letters of support for the plan, didn't request any changes. Garden City submitted a letter where they wanted to make sure that we were aware of their urban renewal district and that it is sunsetting in 2032, and about the coordination with those projects that potentially fall within that district. And then the City of Boise submitted an email where they showed support for the advancement of all the state street corridors. And they did request advancement of projects, specific projects that we had completed concept study phases in recently, which included Collister, Warm Springs, Linden, Poplar, and Mitchell. The City of Meridian letter recognized the acceleration of their top priorities in the plan and did request 5, if I'm reading that right, 5 projects be moved back into the plan that have been delayed out. That's 10 Mile and Cherry, Black Cat, Victory, 2 segments of Victory and Amity Road. And then just had questions on our Ustick and Franklin Road project time in relation to the State Highway 16. So staff is recommending the following changes. Some of these you guys are already aware of. We've already been before you to talk about some of them. So the Black Cat Road crossing acceleration in coordination with ITD, the Northview and Warm Springs projects have already been moved into the plan. The 2 bigger changes that staff is recommending, because Cloverdale was one of the highest comment receivers from the public, was to move the construction for that project back into 29. And just note that project, we have already finished design and right-of-way acquisition on that project. And then Collister, again, that was the top comment we received, and it was on the list from the city to accelerate that back into right-of-way 28 and construction in 29, where it was in the last adoption. And if I have commission support, we will update the map and the project sheets, which will be released to the public tomorrow, which will start kind of an additional 2-week period before we come back for the adoption on the 22nd. So the next steps are tomorrow, releasing the draft, and then back before you on the 22nd. So I'll say it again. And then I will stand for any questions.
Great. Any questions, Commissioner Goldthorpe?
Yes, could you give me a little bit better idea why we've dropped the Maple Grove project between Victory and Amity?
So The Maple Grove project. So this year there was a higher emphasis on what we heard from our partner agencies, and that project was not ranked as high from our partner agencies. There was a segment of Maple Grove that was a higher, and we are keeping that. I think we just delayed the year.
Madam President, Commissioners, I think the biggest thing, as we've talked and we talked last year or last week, you know, my direction to the team was to emphasize our asset management, make sure we're maintaining our roads and our bridges well, to look at the priorities from our partner agencies, focusing on those top 2 or 3 projects. And then once we got past that, then what money's left, that's when we would have allocated to some of these other projects that didn't rise high on those lists. In this case, the money runs out at a certain point in time. And so I think this is an area where, you know, as the commission is looking at our impact fee program, that is the type of project that could be funded as we have more funds that come in that way. There are other projects that we think are great projects that are out there, but we wanted to make sure that we were being a good partner in working with other jurisdictions as well. We do recognize that there are some comments from the public, and that's why we bring it to you and look for your feedback. If we didn't quite get that right, we're happy to look at that.
I just wanted to opine here for a minute, and that is regarding how fast and furious some partner priorities change. And I disagree with our decision to concentrate on those as much as we have, for that reason, the politics of those priorities sometimes. And that's why I wish very strongly that projects like that Maple Grove project, which we have worked so hard on for the last 5 years, didn't just disappear.
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, this is why we're here. If at the commission's direction, we can add that back into the plan, those are the options and the discretion that you have. You know, we just wanted to make sure that we don't, in the outer years, we overprogram. We do, because we know that things do change, and there's some flexibility in that. And if that's what the commission would like us to do, is to overprogram and add that in. That was a higher comment that we did receive from the public. And so if that's of interest to the commission, we can do whatever you would like us to do.
Well, that part of the county has been very concerned with 2 corridors, Maple Grove and Cloverdale, and how long they've been appearing on 5-year plans, to the point where some of those projects would have been constructed and finished by now from their first few original years of input into the plan. And so that's a big concern to me. We've got, as you know, Dave Jorgensen's project down there at Spring Rock, which in 2019, we spent an incredible amount of time, and was not all positive, determining what the impacts of that one project was going to be to Cloverdale Road. And how little, at least that I thought, we were prepared for that. And all kinds of assurances given. We can go back and look at those hearings if you'd like, or read the articles from the paper and everywhere else. That's critical for us. Having a 2-lane road down to where 10,000 people live isn't going to be very bright, and it's going to take many years to complete the facilitation of that one project. And we've got others there that are coming online since 2019 and in the future. And so I'm just raising the alarm.
Madam President, Commissioners, if at your discretion, we're happy to, if we get a head nod, we can add that in as well. Just recognizing that we're probably looking at over programming at this point in time, and so we'll just have to have a harder conversation down the road when we get there. But some of that may be resolved as we look at our CIP and make sure that there are some additional funding that could come through that program. So we look to your direction.
One last thing, and that's a great idea. In fact, I think what the commission ought to ask that those funds be sequestered until we decide where to spend them. Also, and this has precedent from back in 2016, when we were so concerned about the damage we'd done to our reputation with the neighbors down in the South Cole area, when we were able to sequester monies from bids that were significantly less than our estimates to fix some of those aspects of construction, such as the Cole Lake Hazel intersection and the Victory and Cole. We used a lot of money that we saved from those underbid projects for that, and we directed as a commission at the time that staff do that, and it worked wonderfully. I think it's time that we implemented that again.
Commissioner Pickering?
Madam President, thank you. Christy, great job. I think I really appreciate the thoughtfulness of some of the updates, given the number of comments on some of the projects. And then I noticed that they were all across the county too. So I think that that's really helpful from my vantage point to know that there wasn't just a ton of folks from one particular area, right, that have one particular project in mind. So congrats to the communications team, because I think that demonstrates that we got the word out really well using all the tools that we have. I mean, I understand where Commissioner Goldthorpe is coming from, but I would say, you know, my perspective on this is, it's really, I think, valuable and important to the best of our ability, model and reflect those city, our partner agency priorities, even if we disagree at times. And because I think there's plenty of large projects that, you know, I'd be like, is that your priority? But I think overall, I think if we can work together on those things, even if and I understand your frustration about changing of minds and things like that, but my 2 cents is I think what you've presented works really well. And I think it also puts it also adds emphasis to our conversation about the CIP and our impact fee program, and why it's really important that we look at this decision that's coming up in December and making sure that that's funded so that it can fund things that are outside of projects that have to get done based off of development, those things like that, but we have the means to actually address them and have that flexibility outside of the integrated 5-year work plan. Thank you.
Commissioner Nielsen?
Yeah, I kind of share Commissioner Goldthorpe's concern about some of the roads in Southwest Boise, and I would hope that just some more of the Maple Grove or any segment that may not be a priority for whatever reason, but I always want to look at what is the level of congestion today and into the future. And I know we get some of that on the spreadsheet, particularly I think for the CIP, but that's some information I'd like to look at to make sure that when resources are few, that we're spending them to help people who are here today more than people who aren't here yet. And as much as we try to plan and avoid that, I think some of these roads, with just the growth, general growth, they kind of get overlooked because they're just serving people who are here today. So I'm kind of would like to have a little more information on Maple Grove in that regard, and to an extent Cloverdale. Because they're not just because of a development that's popped up in 5 years, but these conversations have been going on for a long, long time. And I want to understand where they're at and where they're going to go in the future. I'll look at the CIP information as well too. But and I guess that leads to a question, Christy. Will you remind me, because since we have both things in front of us, the CIP, the first 5 years of the CIP, how do those interact with the 5-year plan? Or is that a director question? Yeah, go for it.
It informs
Informs, okay.
the CIP. If it's a project that's under construction currently, it wouldn't be listed, but anything 26 and out, it would be reflected in the CIP.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, everything, every major, sorry, Madam President, Commissioner Nielsen, I always forget, that every project that we have currently in the integrated 5-year work plan was in the past CIP and would also be shown in the CIP coming out. Did I answer that?
Madam President?
Commissioner McKinney.
Yeah, just let me add my comment here. I think it's worth keeping in mind that with respect to the 5-year plan and the CIP and our partner agency desires, we have an obligation as an agency to exercise our own independent judgment and not simply rubber stamp whatever it is the cities might want at any given time. So I think that's an important consideration in all of this, that a city might really want, a whole list of things. But if we look at them and step back and look at the whole county, which is our obligation, some city priorities might not really fit with the broader picture that we're obligated to keep in mind. So I think that's worth recognizing here.
Well, thanks, Christy. Did you have another comment?
Just one last thing, and this is for Trish. When you ask those questions like about Maple Grove, Justin was absolutely up to his neck in that one, and he can probably tell you everything you need to know about it, and I can give you some color about how the
Yeah.
design changed
Oh,
to
okay.
where it is today.
Appreciate that.
Madam President, just a quick comment too. And I want to, I think, remind all of us, like, this will be a draft that would be released, right? So we still the adoption's not until later this month. So I'd be curious, to have you come back, Christy, with some of those details that Commissioner Nelson talked about, so that, if there is a request per Commissioner Goldthorpe or the commission, right, to adjust before or at the adoption hearing, that we're all really informed about those different trade-offs as relates in the impacts to the plan.
Absolutely.
Madam President, Commissioners, I want to be clear, just in response to those comments, and I agree. We have opportunity to make changes up until the final, and ultimately it is a draft. It is a plan that is modified every single year. And so anything in the outer years are just informing where we think we're going to go, and changes to the CIP and all of those things would be adopted into that next plan. Just to answer your question though, Commissioner Nielsen, it is a congested corridor that is over capacity at this point in time.
At this time, yeah.
And there is a school adjacent to it or close to it, and so it is a good project. And I do recognize that as we look at the 5-year plan in the Southwest Boise area in general, there's not great attention paid to it from any of our partners. And so I think that's where we looked at the commission for input and direction there, if that from that side of things. So just to answer your question now, that it is a good project. We don't have, it's why we planned it up to this point. We just were trying to take a much finer tooth comb in what are we putting forward in a plan, and creating more realistic expectations about what's actually going to happen. We were well over programmed before. There were a lot of projects that were being designed that construction years were farther out. And in recognition of the fact that priorities change, we wanted to make sure that we are completing projects as quickly as possible, so that when we start a design, we're moving to construction as quickly as possible, so that those ebbs and flows of priorities don't change. I would recognize, Commissioner McKinney, just simply that the priorities that we will, and it is our intent always, if we disagree with a priority that is presented, or we don't feel like it is the right thing to do, we will represent that, and we would have communication and coordination with our partners. But the ones that have been requested this year, we do believe that they are good projects. There's a lot of projects that have been waiting for a very extended period of time that are good projects that we just didn't know how to wrestle with. And as we've looked at this, we found a better way to accomplish those. So I just wanted to at least answer the question, since how, Christy's done a fantastic job taking the direction that I gave. to her as we've worked and presented to you over time. Ultimately, if there are any concerns, I'm happy to take any direction and feedback from you, but the team, I think, has done a good job, and we can make any modifications up and through the 22nd.
Commissioner Nelson.
Yeah, one question, Christy. I know will the final draft have what project phase is being funded? And I'll use the Warm Springs Millbrook. That's just design, but I think in the table that we got, it just had total project cost and description. Is there going to be any differentiation of what exactly we're asking for in the 5-year plan? Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
Madam President, Commissioner Nelson, yes. So we,
Okay.
both the interactive map, when you click on a
Yeah.
project, it lists the year for each of the phases, as well as total project costs, and the same thing on our project sheets. We don't break it down to this is how much design is, this is how much right of way is, but we do list the years that we have associated with each of the phases of the project. And I did want to, because I had to double check my notes on Maple Grove, Amity, Amity to Victory. That project is in the 5-year plan. There's just not a construction year identified. We have right of way design is completed, right of way is in. We just don't have a construction year identified. And it was a number 3 request. So it is in the plan. It just, we didn't have a construction year yet. That did get delayed. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thanks, Christy. Thanks for all your work and all the team's work on this. It's a huge lift and a little bit of a pivot with changing the approach this year. And just really appreciate all of your effort and, all of the work with partners and public outreach and all of that. I know that, the director did give that direction about prioritizing top 3 partner priorities because there was concern about projects not moving forward or not moving in kind of the timeline that aligned with folks' expectation, which I think is a little bit what Commissioner Colthorpe was speaking to. So trying to get the cities to really, or partners be really intentional about what those top priorities are so that we can get those completed programmed in the plan. And so I do think that this approach is great, and I think that's reflected in the amount of support that we got in the letters from our partners, just a general consensus being happy with this approach. I think when we over program, then we can backslide on that a little bit and kind of go down this road like we were on before, where there's a ton of projects in there. Maybe some are moving, maybe some are not. And that I think is a little bit more confusing or frustrating. So I think it's been a really great effort to try this approach, and I think it's gotten really great feedback. Appreciate your work in getting this list of recommendations on here for going back out with the draft. And interested in maybe putting, I don't know how that Maple Grove project would align in that plan, but getting that out there in the next 2-week public comment situation too. So, but yeah, I think we should try not to over program, and we should try to align on what the top priorities are. And I know that we're not, we don't have information in a vacuum, and neither do our partner agencies. And so that's a collaborative effort. And I know that we're working really intentionally on getting projects completed in a tighter timeline. So thank you for all of your work. And I think you've got the head nod, and we look forward to adoption night in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, that is the final item, and see you all next week.